SB 54's last stand? Is the Utah GOP hatching a plan to end the signature path to the ballot? I really hope so. I really, really hope so. So, for those that don't know, SB 54 is a law that was introduced in 2014 based on the Count My Vote group, if I remember correctly. I think that's their name. In 2013, 2014, they were pushing for more control. They felt that the individual voters needed more of a path to feel like they had a say in their government. It sounds good in paper, but I think both the law and that initiative were just wrong. So here's the deal: Utah and the U.S. are republics. We're also part of the Republican Party. Utah is very much a red state, or at least it used to be. Now it's a blue state in red clothing, I think, especially with Cox here in charge. So Utah introduces this bill. It passes. What this bill does is it allows a individual to get enough signatures to put them on the primary ballot. For those that don't know, before this law was initiated, it was based on the delegates. And for those that don't know this, when you want to vote, and I'm assuming it's a lot because the numbers aren't very high. What you do when you want to vote is you show up and vote for a delegate. The delegate then goes and does their research, looks into the individuals who are running, and then vote. If they get more than 60% of the delegates' vote, they become the nominee. If they get less than 60%, then the two highest individuals go to a primary vote. That's when the rest of the voters get to go to the primary and show up and actually vote. After that, it goes to the general election where you vote between the two parties or independents or whoever is actually there. So effectively, this allows the people a little bit more say, or at least on paper, that's what it's supposed to be saying that it does. But I actually think it diminishes the value of what a republic is and what a republic is supposed to be. Our founders were very much against mob rule. This is why they created the system. They created three branches of government. They each had checks and balances on each other. They created it through a representative government where we would vote for our representatives. And the way we chose those representatives was again through other representatives. So think about this from 200 years ago. You're on the farm, you're farming, you're doing the best that you can to take care of your farm, and you don't have the time to go into the city and find out what's going on. Probably don't even get a newspaper because they didn't really exist as much back then. And I don't mean to say they don't exist. I just meant they weren't as popular or as widespread, right? You'd end up going to and borrowing a neighbor's or whatever, and information traveled a lot slower, of course, than today. So you would receive this and you go, okay, here's these people. I don't have time to look into these people. I don't know who they are. So the community would come together and say, hey, I know Bill down the road. I trust Bill. I vote for Bill to go and research these individuals and come back and tell us who he feels the nomination should be. So we pick these individuals. They have some time on their hands. We believe them to have some wisdom. They're of good character. We send them out. They look into it. They make their nomination. You come and you say, okay, great. I want to vote for the person that was nominated. I believe that they have the best interest because of someone else. That is part of the representation process. I understand that today there is more time. I'm here talking to you through a camera and a microphone, that you could get the information if I was live immediately. There would be no discrepancy between hearing it, or if there is, it's milliseconds. Because of that, some individuals feel that because they are well informed, they need to have a better say what happens. They want the voters to vote. But here's the deal: most voters aren't actually paying attention. We're very aware of this. Most voters don't. This is why Democrats would love to push for 16-year-olds to vote, because they don't know what's going on. The more individuals you have voting elections, the more likely that mob rule, tyranny, is going to come into place. We can already see this with the Senate, the change to the Senate of how they were elected from from the 17th Amendment. This removed them being selected by the state that they are supposed to represent, now being a representation of the people in that state. Yeah, I'm hoping you're picking up on the difference. They used to have the responsibility to the actual state. The state government would select these individuals. They would fight for the rights of their state. not of necessarily the people, although, of course, indirectly the people. But the point was to help keep the sovereignty, the sovereignty of that state. They can't do that if they are beholden to the people, no longer to the state. And we've already seen that states are losing more and more their sovereignty. The federal government is overstepping its bounds, and we should repeal the 17th Amendment, 100%. Good news for us. I know that Mike Lee wants that, or at least he's suggested that he wants that. Is it going to happen? Probably not. But at least our current senator thinks it's a good idea. Now, that gets me back to SB 54. This, to me, was a way for individuals to use the mob rule and tyranny and I will say the word ignorance of the masses to push their own agendas. I think this is a purposeful move to destroy our country, to destroy our way of life, to destroy Utah, to destroy this state. They want to have tyranny. They want to have complete control. You see, one of the reasons that a lot of laws weren't passed in the past is because there was a lot of fighting, and a lot of the rules that did get passed, and there were some good ones and there were some bad ones, but it's because people actually agreed. The people, everyone everywhere was like, hey, this sounds like a good idea. So it happened. Now we're becoming more and more bifurcated. I think that's partially because we, the people, have way too much say in our voting. There's too many individuals who aren't doing any research, and they're saying, I'm going to vote for that guy because I know him, seen his face before. Right? That, in my opinion, is exactly what happened with Governor Cox and with AG Derek Brown. Individuals knew these people. Governor Cox was already the governor. But Phil Lyman, for those that don't know, won 67% of the delegate vote. He was the Republican nominee. But Governor Cox was able to pay a company to get signatures for him to become, to put himself on the primary ballot. Then it goes to the people, and the people get to vote. Do we want Phil Lyman or do we want Cox? And the majority of people I've asked, and to be fair, it hasn't been a lot, but the majority of people I've asked said they voted for Cox because they knew him and they didn't know who Phil Lyman was. So there wasn't actually I'm going to look into this person or that person. It's, I don't really know who Phil Lyman is. I might agree with some of his policies, but I'm going to vote for Cox because he's already there. And I heard the same thing from a few individuals about AG Derek Brown. Now, if I am wrong, and I am totally open to being wrong, I would love to hear those. Okay, please leave any comments. Comment section. You can also debate me on X, Reese J. Crockett. If you disagree, send me a message. I will gladly respond to those messages because I would like to understand why individuals think that I am wrong, especially when it comes to having us closer and closer to a democracy. We are not meant to be a democracy. We're meant to be a republic. I want to be able to pick my outstanding friend in my neighborhood and say, please go pick somebody, become a delegate, and pick an individual for me that I can vote for this individual because I know that you have my best interest and your own best interest in mind for the community in which we. There's nothing wrong with that. That is how it was always intended to be. There's always been an intention for trust. We're not there. So again, here we are with this. So I'm gonna read here. Attacks on SB 54 are commonplace at Republican conventions. Delegates hate the 2014 law created Utah's dual path nomination system, allowing candidates to either gather vote signatures, win delegate support at political conventions, or both to reach the primary election ballot. Convention delegates who traditionally controlled party nominations particularly hate this law because it diminishes their power. However, 3 developments at Saturday's Utah GOP convention suggested growing momentum for the Republican-controlled legislature to ditch SB 54, possibly later this year. Again, I really, really hope so. First, the sponsor of the proposal to kick signature gathering candidates out of the party yanked the initiative off the agenda, cryptically explaining that he had recently been made aware of another way to end the signature path that was under consideration. Later that day, Senator Mike Lee issued a clarion call to state leaders and GOP delegates alike to take swift action to scrap SB. Again, 100% I agree. There's too many individuals. First and foremost, it's pay to play at this point. I could just pay to have my name shared to individuals and go get signatures. The other issue is the signature process is not very transparent. We have no idea how it's, we're not able to audit it is a better way to say it. Not that we don't know how it's done. We do know how it's supposed to be done, but I would like to be able to audit it to know how it's actually been done. And currently the courts have held, no, we don't have to, especially because they put it in to the law that this does not fall under the GRAMA Act. GRAMA, that allows Utahns to actually receive this information. I forget what it stands for, but it doesn't matter. So here's the deal. There's a lot of voters who feel that their voice isn't being heard, that they have to vote for people that someone else picked. Well, here's the deal. According to election data on Utah's website for statistics, it says 9% of registered voters are actually showing up to select delegates. 9%. So 10% of our population, one in 10, actually show up and say, hey, I want to pick this person in my community who represents me to go and pick somebody. So no wonder people are feeling like they're not being heard. It's because they're not showing up to actually do their part. They're not going to show up to do their part. They should not be given this extra signature place to win. So to me, this is ridiculous. So let's get into a little bit of the specifics and then we'll move on. Effectively, if you are running for governor or senator or AG or any of these statewide voting positions, you need 28,000 signatures to get on the primary ballot. The numbers from there go down, so you need 7,000 if you want for the congressional district. So this is for the 4 U.S. House seats that Utah has. You have to get 7,000. That will put you on and get you qualified. 2,000 for the state Senate. So this is not for the U.S. Senate. This is specifically for Utah State. Then it's half that, 1,000 for the House district, and then 3% for county office races. So it's basically a flat number for most, and then 3% for that last one. So that's kind of the part of the law. If you can achieve this, we will allow you into the primary. Here's the deal. Everyone knows that if someone's getting this many signatures, that they're probably going to win because everyone knows who they are already. When I'm asked to sign a signature here in Utah, people are like, hey, do you know this person? Well, I'm trying to get them to, get on the primary ballot. Can you sign this? And people say, yeah, because you know that person. And some people will say no because they know that person. But there's a lot of individuals who are like, oh, I've heard that name. Sure, I'll sign it. Like it's very common that this is happening. So it's kind of just becoming a popularity test, but not an actual who are you test and what do you stand for. That is the point of sending a delegate. So that's kind of where it's at. Now, I want to point out one thing. I definitely stand for Phil Lyman. I voted for him. I wrote his name in. I wrote his full name in because of other controversies that I won't necessarily get into. And I'd like to understand that whole situation better. But here's the deal. Governor Cox got 28,000 signatures. So did AG Derek Brown. So both of them were voted in because they both lost the delegate vote. Like Derek didn't even make it in. He didn't even get like 10% of the vote here. So he shouldn't have even been selected. And Governor Cox only got like 30% or less. I don't remember the actual number, but again, Phil Lyman received 67. So the delegates were like, hey, Phil Lyman's going to be really good for our state. And everyone's like, well, I know Cox. I'll vote for him. Here's the deal. Wrong one. So right here, the most tax states in America based on total tax burden. So this includes property, income, and sales tax as a percentage of personal income. Utah's at 9.5%. That 9.5% puts us on the 14th. We are the 14th highest state. Now, 14th might not sound that bad. Like, hey, at least we're not in the top 10. Yeah, but here's the deal. We are the only red state on the first part of this. Like, we are the top red state in this list. All the other states are blue. So Utah is a red state that spends like a blue state. We're taking all this money. Governor Cox has increased our our state budget from like 23 billion to 28 billion. So, and it just keeps going up, and he wants more, and he wants to increase it again. And they're trying to build the point. They're trying to do initiatives with government money to institute things that have generally in the past been recognized as leftist or liberal or democratic type systems. Governor Cox is doing all this. He is a wolf in sheep's clothing, is how I'd like to state it. Now, in the end, he won. I don't think there's any way that they're going to actually remove him from office and instill Phil Lyman. That's just not going to happen. So we're here now. We are what we are. But Governor Cox has put Utah as the 14th highest tax state in America, according to this, in 2024. Out for April 7th. So it's for 2024. And honestly, that number is just going to keep going up. He keeps claiming I'm doing tax cuts. And it's like, well, yeah, you can cut taxes in some areas and raise them in others. It doesn't mean overall there were tax cuts. I don't think that they were, because we are the 14th highest state and the first red state on the list. So I'm upset. I want to get rid of SB 54. Please call your representatives either the House representative or your senator or both, preferably. Give him a call, send him a text message, send him an email, do whatever you can. Let him know that you feel that SB 54 from 2014 needs to be repealed, that we need to get rid of the signature additions and voting, and just return back to delegates. Again, if you disagree, please let me know in the comments. You can also find me on X, Reese J. Crockett. Go ahead and tell me why I'm wrong. I'd love to hear it. I really would love to get into this conversation and this debate, especially if you're from Utah. That's what actually matters to me. So let's have that conversation. You can follow me on X, Rumble, and YouTube. Hopefully, I'll get some other things set up here soon as well. Like and subscribe to the video. Share it with everybody you know. Everybody. If it's your enemy, if it's your friend, your mom or dad, share the video. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.